Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Think and Grow Show with your hosts, Dr. Z and
Professor P.
Today, we're going to bring you another episode of our segment that we do together, Tip of the Day, Tip of the Day. Dr. Z, what's our Tip of the Day?
Today we are going to be sharing about the 4 C's by Dan Sullivan.
Okay. They are?
Well, so the 4 C's are commitment, courage, capability, and confidence. So the last time we had the tip of the day, we talked about how we stepped outside of our comfort zone.
Right.
And many people feel like when they're stepping outside of their comfort zone or they're going after an amazing goal, they feel like they should have confidence. They're like, I'll start that when I feel confident, when I know that I can do this, right?
Yeah.
And many times, confidence isn't there in the beginning.
Right.
So I wanted to share a story about when I went to medical school.
Okay, cool. Let me ask you, first off, how did you get interested in becoming a doctor?
You know, it's a funny thing you would ask me that because I remember thinking about going to medical school as a kid. I don't know exactly where that came from, and maybe it was just my parents or my dad. My dad is a biology professor.
Right.
So maybe he would talk about it. So I remember even as a kid always saying I was going to go to medical school.
Oh,
So
wow.
even at that young age, maybe I had some level of commitment to it.
Okay, about how old were you when you got that inkling?
Maybe 9?
Wow,
9 or
that's
10?
pretty young.
I think so. I was fairly young. I honestly don't remember, but I think it was around 9 or 10.
Okay, so early on, I'm going to be a doctor.
Pretty
And then
much. So I made good grades in school, and I remember everything that I was kind of doing was headed towards that end. And I
You
majored
go
in
through high
biology.
school, right?
Yeah.
You get through high school and you're boom, banging out the beginning of the, college years getting close, and you're like, I still got that doctor deal in my mind here. Right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I had some moments where I was considering other things, but I really didn't have anything else that I was really that passionate about. So I was like, okay, let me just go on to med school.
Okay, so you finish up your 4-year. I'm not the college guy. So what is that? Your
Undergrad.
Your undergrad, and then
I
you're
applied
going
for medical school, and
apply
just
for
applying
medical
for
school.
medical school, taking exams, again, that required a level of commitment just to get through the entire process. But I went through it. I did it all. And then I remember sitting in my class, and I think one of the professors maybe was saying, look around, because not everybody that you see in this class is going to make it through the full 4 years or is going to be here by the time you graduate. And I remember just thinking to myself, who's not going to be here?
Yeah.
I mean, it never even crossed my mind.
Okay, with that said, kind of walk us through these 4 C's and how they evolved, and which, did commitment. So you were committed. You're like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. So talk a little about that first C, the commitment factor.
Yeah, I was committed in the beginning, and once I got into medical school, it was a rough patch. It was a rough go. It totally wasn't what I expected. And so I kind of struggled. I thought about actually dropping out after my first semester or so.
Wow.
But then, I had gone to see like a counselor for the school, and she was like, what if you just decided or committed to finish out the year, and then you can decide whatever else you wanted to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stayed through the first semester, and then the second part of the semester, I was introduced to pathology.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I really enjoyed that. It was a lot like biology. I was a biology major in high school, so I'm in college, so it was very similar. And so
Mm-hmm.
that the end of the year went actually really well. So then I committed to the second year. Now the interesting thing was then when in the third year is when we actually went to the hospital.
Mm.
Now that was scary times.
Okay. So is that when the courage factor really kicked in?
That's when the current factor had to step in.
Okay.
Because you can imagine going into a patient room, doing the physical, getting the patient history, doing the physical exam. Again, stuff I had never done in my whole entire life. So that
Right.
was
So
very
where
scary.
did you muster that courage when you were found yourself in those difficult situations?
It's a performance.
Okay.
You just do it. It's showtime.
You just took action and just, I'm scared crapless right now, but I'm going to keep taking action.
It really was, and I remember my surgery rotation actually. I was so scared, and I was scared to really do anything because I didn't want to mess up. Obviously, this was like a live patient. And then I got a poor performance review because I held back. And so
Mm,
I really liked surgery. So the second rotation, I really, got in there again, performing. I got in there and I was asking to do stuff and
mm,
wanting to really be more engaged, and I got
mm.
much better reviews. It was like night and day.
Wow.
And so yeah,
It
so that
sounds
was the
like you
courage.
took the feedback, you would do something, you take some action, and then you'd get feedback, and then it was just cause and effect where you were, okay, you took their advice and their everything they had to say and used it constructively to help get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the better I got, the more I demonstrated I was capable.
Yeah, so you gained some confidence. We're not onto that one yet, but so you started to really that like the snowball at the top of the hill, right? You started to gain some momentum, and your capability factor really started to get
Go
bigger.
on. Yeah, yeah,
Tell us
got
more about
bigger.
that.
Yeah, the more I did stuff, faced my fears, had more courage, and
Hmm.
took action, I proved that I could do it, and that I could eventually pass all of my classes and pass my exams. And 4 years later, I was wearing that coat, the white coat,
I'm a doctor
the
coming through.
MD, my
Doctor
capping
coming through
down.
here.
I had the MD behind my name.
Wow. Congrats. That must have been an exciting day, right?
Yeah, and then yeah, I was confident. But I even that I had to grow into the identity of Dr. Okia.
Yeah. So, how long do you think it took you to get that from capability to confidence? Or is it
That is
still a
an
work in
ongoing process.
progress?
That is ongoing.
Okay. But still,
I continue to see things that I've never seen before. So,
right. But in terms of being a brand new doctor and then going into hospital pathology, which has to be high stress, right? I mean, holy cow, you're making, observations and analyzing situations that are really, and they must be really intense. Talk a little bit about that.
well, and it also helps that I wasn't a solo, in solo practice.
Right.
I
Right.
had other colleagues, so it was very helpful to be able to share my cases with them, just get a second opinion, be able to write their name that I shared it with so and so and they agree with the diagnosis. So you never felt like you were totally hung out to dry. There was other people that you could ask for feedback,
Yeah, but
and
tell us a little bit about that whole hospital pathology where you're looking at things on a cellular level, correct?
right, yeah.
So you're in there looking for tumors, cancerous, malignant. I don't know, I'm not the don't have all the terminology, but just give us an idea because we always wonder about that person, when I had some issues and I had gone through and had a tumor and they sent it off, they sent it up to Mayo and they sent it back and they're like, well, we don't know what it is. We just know it isn't cancerous.
Yeah, I spent a year at the Mayos.
Okay.
So that was really incredible because yeah, you saw so many things. I saw things that I had just looked at in a textbook,
Wow.
and definitely I had 5 years prior to going there of doing pathology. So even as a resident in my residency, I was constantly looking at slides and challenging myself, doing the teaching sets. And so yeah, it's a 5 year residency for a reason,
Hmm.
because there's so many presentations, so many different types of tumors. It's even become more elaborate now that they're doing more DNA testing and genetic testing on the tumor itself to
Yeah.
determine its behavior. So yeah, it's a very long process, because it requires that degree of expertise. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, cool. Thanks for anything else you want to add, or is that about it? Or how do you feel these 4 C's have helped you through the years from when you first started in college all the way up until what you're doing now, which is life coaching and multiple things?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that's followed me ever since I can remember. And even as I was thinking about this, I remember when I was in high school and I applied to become a cheerleader. I went out for the cheerleading squad. I didn't make it, but I remember just learning the cheers and then getting out there and doing the things, and that was brand new for me too. But it was a lot of fun. And then I
Yeah.
applied to be drum major. I played the flute in the marching band, and I actually applied to be drum major. And
Wow.
everybody was totally surprised because, again, I'm very shy. I'm really
Yeah.
tall and I'm very intimidating, but I'm also very shy. And so when I was applying, the drum major at the time, I don't think she really took me seriously. But I tell you, when I got out there and I was doing my audition, I was like all in it. I was like, yeah,
Nice.
I mean, I forget what the calls were, but I was
Yeah.
doing it. And at the end, she was like, wow, I didn't know you had that in you. And I said, yeah, I didn't either. So I freaked myself out a lot of times.
That's funny.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing.